Okay, this video is about solving two-step equations, and so I'm going to just look at some guidelines before we even start. And so basically, what I like to do is to keep an eye on what the goal might be, and the goal is to find x, okay, which all the variable, it could be y, m, q, whatever it might be. The next thing is the strategy. What is our overall strategy? My overall strategy is to undo whatever has been done to x. And some other guidelines are to keep balance. And when I say that, I mean what we do to one side of the equal sign, we do to the other side. And this keeps things equal. And the structure, to keep things looking nice and all that sort of stuff, we keep the equal signs under each other. And I'll demonstrate that with some examples. Okay, so before we do two-step ones, I'll just review doing one-step equations. And there's basically 4 different types of one-step equations that we'll be looking at the moment. And it's just two-step and beyond are just combinations of these things. So if you can do these 4 basic questions, you can do any of the other ones. Okay, so we'll start with this basic one where I've got something plus 5 equals 8.3. And so what's my goal? My goal in the end is I want it to say x equals. And at the moment, when I look, what's the difference? I've got that plus 5 there. So I want to get rid of that. And so how do I get rid of it? Well, if you plus something, then the opposite of plussing is minus. So I'm going to have, so I've got x plus 5, and if I minus 5, plus 5 minus 5 will get 0. So this ends up being x plus 0, which is the same as just x. And so to keep it equal, I have to do the same to the other side of the equal sign, 8.3 minus 5. And so what's happened? That 5 and that 5 are cancelled out, leaves me with just that x, and 8.3 take away 5 is 3.3. Okay, and I can check that by putting it back in the equation. And if I do that in there, I'd have, well, instead of x, I put 3.3 plus 5, and that's equal to 8.3. And of course, that's what we got here. So it works. So it's a bit trivial to do it to such an easy equation there, but that's just the same concepts that we build on later on. Okay, so the next situation we've got is we've been multiplied by 3, and the opposite of multiplying is dividing by. So we're going to put our equals underneath each other. I've got 3m, and I'm going to divide by 3. And 15.3, I'm going to divide by 3. I'm doing the same to both sides of the equals sign. And when I've got the 3 over the 3, I can cancel them out. And the reason I can cancel them out is because 3 divided by 3 is equal to 1. And so it'd be like having just 1m. And we don't really write the 1 in there for algebra, so I'll get rid of that. But I can do the 15 divided by 3, and that'll give me 5.1. And 3 times 5.1 obviously gives me 15.3. In the next situation, we're dividing, so the opposite of dividing is timesing. J on 5 times 5 equals 2.2 times 5. They cancel out, and so I'm just left with J equals 2.2 times 5, which is 11. And the last situation here, I've minused by 8. The opposite of minusing is plus, so I'm going to plus 8. And I get these guys cancelling out. I'm left with W, and minus 2 plus 8 is 6. So they're my 4 different situations with 1 steps. And now 2 steps are just combinations of those. So let's have a look. Same thing, I'm getting my equals underneath each other, and I look what's happened to E. Now E, I started with E, and then what did I do? I times by 2, and then I plussed 8, and I end up getting 34. So to undo that, the opposite of plussing 8 is minus 8, and then timesing by 2 is divided by 2. So basically what I'm going to be doing is going to be minusing 8 and then dividing by 2. But let's go back to the question and we'll try and frame it. So so the first step, I've got BEDMAS, 2 times E plus 8. I'll do the times first. So I need to undo it and do it in reverse. So the last thing I did was plus the 8, so that's the first thing I need to get rid of. So I'm going to have 2E plus 8 minus 8 is 34 minus 8 equals underneath each other. And these guys will get cancelled out, leave me with just 2E, and 34 take away 8 is 26. And then I've got 2E divided by 2, 26 divided by 2, because I'm doing the cancelling out, I'm doing the opposite, because it was 2 times E. Opposite of times is divide, and I get left with E, and 26 divided by 2 is 13. And I could check that. If I put 13 in here, then I have 2 times 13 is 26, plus 8 is 34, so it works. Next one. Okay, so what's happened to n here? It was plus by 6, and then it was divided by 3. So to undo that, I have to work backwards. So the last thing I did was divide by 3, so the first thing I do to undo it is to times by 3. N plus 6 divided by 3 times by 3. And I have to do the same to the other side of the equal sign. And so what happens? 12 times 3 is 36, and these 3's will cancel out, and I'm left with n plus 6. And then that's another simple equation now. N plus 6, I need to minus 6 from both sides, and I get cancel, cancel, n is equal to 30, and that's the answer. And the last one that I've got here as an example, I've got, okay, what's happened to f? It was divided by 6, and then it was plus by 7. So to undo that, the last thing I did was plus 7, so the first thing I do to undo it is minus the 7. So f on 6 plus 7 minus 7, 27 minus 7, and I get 20 there. They've cancelled out. I've got f on 6 is 20. F on 6, get rid of the divided by timesing. And 120, those go, and I get f is equal to 120.